and then some. Running with wise fools in the high noon. Can't take your money with you. Sure as hell.
Welcome to the first episode of RunIN podcast. We are excited to bring our listeners expansive coverage of the Indiana distance running world, from youth running, high school running, all the way up to alumni who are in college and professional running. My name is Brock Hagerman. I'm one of the hosts. I'm joined here by Chris Walden.
Hello. My name's Chris.
Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself here? Tell us a little bit about your background.
All right, yep. So I'm a 2011 graduate from Carmel High School. While at Carmel, I did some running for the Hounds. Some highlights where I contributed to the 2008 Indiana team title for the IHSAA. Later on, went to win an individual title in the 1600 and qualified for the Foot Locker Nationals in 2010. And then continued my running career at UC Berkeley. 2014, finished 17th at the NCAA finals in cross country. Lately, I've been doing a little bit of running, hit the roads last fall for the first time. Ran a couple half marathons, and now I'm coaching with the Guerin Catholic Golden Eagles.
Well, I should have went first because it's kind of hard to follow up that resume, Chris. So thanks for making my resume look like a middle school kid compared to that resume. So I am a Pendleton Heights High School class of 2006 graduate. I guess my claim to fame is winning the 2005 IHSA Cross Country State Championship. Qualified for Foot Locker that year. Ended up running 4:12 in the 1600 as a senior in high school and 9:12 in the 3200. I'm not going to mention any cross country times because, as everyone will hopefully figure out at some point, I'm a bit anti cross country times. Ended up going to Notre Dame for 1 year for college. Then transferred to the University of New Mexico and finished out my NCAA career there. Ran 14:14 in a 5K and 29:20 in a 10K. Was more of a 10K guy as opposed to anything shorter. Had the great experience of running in 2 NCAA cross country national championship meets, but hung up the spikes or the racing flats right after college and focused on law school and a career, and I've been working most of my post-running career in the NCAA rules compliance world, whether it's at the national office or within Division I.
Awesome. So now you guys know a little bit about us. Hopefully our unimpressive accolades give us at least the appearance of credibility to conversate about all Indiana happenings. I think...
Yeah, and our goal in this podcast and this project is to simply promote our sport. Chris and I, we've talked a lot offline, and we both seem to have a passion for this sport that started at a young age. We both have had a lot of mentors. We followed the running media for several years, decades in my case, and just really want to recognize great accomplishments across our state, analyze current events that are happening at the high school ranks and beyond, do some historical analysis. We've had a lot of great runners, wouldn't you agree, Chris, that have come through our state?
Yeah, we've had a lot of great runners here in Indiana, and we'd love to bring a lot of great content to you guys, our listeners out there, and deliver some great stuff about Indiana running past, present, and future.
Yeah, and hopefully we just have a lot of fun, maybe even provide some entertainment, banter, maybe even some laughs, I don't know, as this podcast goes on. And and hopefully people find it useful. Maybe we help some individuals in their training, maybe some coaches tune in. Not that either of us have a coaching resume necessarily. Obviously, Chris, you're you're coaching a little bit right now, correct?
Yeah. I've been coaching the Golden Eagles since this past fall. I did a little coaching with the Carmel Project in the past in Carmel Middle School. So yeah, I've had a good opportunity to help some young athletes develop, but I'm still a young coach myself.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to seeing where your coaching career takes you and seeing how those Garin athletes continue to do. So we'll kind of maybe be some homers for the Garin athletes here in this podcast. But we'll try and curb that a little bit, even though I'll be cheering for them and maybe have a little bit of a bias. But yeah, we'll try and keep that at bay. So on the horizon here, we're thinking we've got a few things coming down the pipeline here in some of our early episodes. So we've talked a lot about doing a GOAT or a Dynasty series. And for those that don't know the acronym GOAT, we're talking about the
greatest of all time, GOAT.
And so we have the potential to have some conversations that we like to bring to our listeners with some of these legendary athletes that have come through the Hoosier State over the past few years, past decades, and we've had some great athletes that we might be able to bring in that are from the 60s, 70s, 80s. And so, yeah,
there's a rich history to be prideful about. So, and we'd like other people to know.
And I think through talking with some of these legendary athletes, maybe we'll have a little connection with them, and to where they're not so much just a name in a record book necessarily. We can actually bring some stories and some personality to those names and the records. And I think I'll speak for you here, maybe Chris, but we're really looking forward to getting to know these athletes, these stories.
Definitely. There's going to be a lot of great storylines kind of surrounding some of these performances and season arcs, and I'm excited to really get to talk to some of these folks. So.
And then in addition to looking at some of these GOAT athletes and perhaps even, I don't know if we'll be able to do this, but maybe try and rank them at the end of this project. I have a feeling that's going to be a very difficult task. We also want to look at some dynasty programs and some of the head coaches, assistant coaches, athletes that have been a part of dynasty programs. And Chris, I'm not a Carmel guy. I'm one of those guys that ran against Carmel. My team always was getting beat by Carmel, even though we desperately wanted to take a regional title away from them back when we were in the same cross-country regional. But I got a lot of satisfaction out of beating Carmel guys individually. I'll say that much. But we got to say Carmel's one of those dynasty programs, and you got to run for Coach Keppen in his farewell tour.
I had some great experiences at Carmel, and they know it, that they're the target's on their backs, and I feel like I'm in a kind of a fun and unique position where now I'm competing against the Hounds. So that it's kind of interesting to see the shoe on the other foot, or kind of both sides of the coin, seeing Carmel intimately from the inside as an athlete, and now coaching against them. So yeah, hopefully we can get some of the life and blood of that program and to kind of talk, and kind of so people can kind of see what that's all about, past runners and coaches. So yeah, we're looking forward to that.
And my goal is to really get Chris to admit that it's really fun to beat Carmel. If he cannot maybe admit it already, I don't know. So
it's hard because I root for him, but at the same time, when the gun goes off, all bets are off. But yeah, it's interesting to see Carmel win and lose because if they go down, somebody's doing something special.
And I'll speak for the rest of the state here that there are several other dynasty-type programs, and obviously, Chris, you've recognized a few of them here in our short list of programs to try and get on the podcast. But we've had a lot of great coaches in this state at the high school level, and a lot of great dynasty success, whether that be for a span of 5 years or a decade at a time. and obviously some programs that have had continued success for longer than decades. So that's going to be a really exciting thing that we hope to bring to our listeners. So, but for today's episode here, instead of getting everyone excited about the future, we have a lot of things going on in the Indiana running world. Indoor season is heating up right now. Obviously, the high school indoor season in Indiana is somewhat unofficial. The IHSA doesn't sponsor an indoor season technically. But we do have a lot of Indiana alums in the college ranks and even professional ranks. So what went on this weekend? This was a big weekend here.
Yeah, so not too much on the high school side of things, but the Indiana alumni have been doing some good stuff. Carmel alumnus Ben Veach threw down a sub-8, 756, 3,000 meter. Off the top of my head, I think that converts to around like running 4:16 twice in a row in the 3,200. So that's like an 8:33 or so. 3,200 for you high school kids that don't know 3K times. Another Carmel alum ran a 2:05.8 to give her number 8 in the NCAA currently, and that's Kelsey Harris. And then we got another Indiana alum, Eckstein, doing 8:04 in a 3K, and out at the UW Invite, Hari, a former Brownsburg runner, splitting about a 150-ish on what looks to be a potential national champion DMR coming up here later for the NCAAs. They're anchored by a stud runner by the name of Grant Fisher over at Stanford. So yeah, a lot of good Indiana runners doing good stuff at the next level. Right here, some current events going on in Indiana coming up. I know there's an IU meet that's run through Indiana Track Club. That should be a good opportunity for maybe some runners to get experience with the HSR finals venue. So that's always usually kind of a cool little opener, rust buster for a lot of runners, especially in the Bloomington area. And then I believe the following weekend is the IR meet, and I think that's been growing and getting a little bit bigger every year the past few years, and has become quite the meet. So I'm sure a lot of people will be looking to maybe put down some of their HSR qualifying times there.
Do we have any rumors on the street right now? Chris, you're a little more in tune since you're around the high school athletes on a day-to-day basis, but any rumors on the street on who's going to be showing up at the IR meet in a few weeks?
I don't know. I don't think any of our athletes will be there. I can't say for sure. Maybe some of them, but I know it's going to be hot. There's going to be some people who maybe didn't have the strongest finish to the end of cross country that they wanted, and this will kind of be their first opportunity to kind of get that taste out of their mouth and put something down and open up their season and show, hey, I belong.
Definitely. And going back to the alumni update, Ben Veach, 756. That's a PR for him. I think he broke 8 last year in a 3K at IU, but still setting a PR here in January in a 3K. Fantastic run for him. Obviously, the NCAA Division I complete meat grinder, especially on the indoor season. It's one of the hardest championships to qualify for indoors because you're looking at a descending order list of only the top 16. It probably takes closer to 750 to get to nationals in the 3K, I would think. Where do you see him projecting at the end of this indoor season here?
Oh, I think he's got some more to give there on that 756. Impressive run, great opener, rust buster. Well, I guess he's had a few other races, but he's still rounded into form. Ben redshirted in cross country, so he's been looking forward to this track season. You gotta imagine he's gonna be one of those 16 in there, either in the he might go 5K route. He'll probably pick one and just focus on that at the finals and see where he qualifies. I'm imagining he'll probably put down a 5K here pretty soon. But Yeah, I think he could approach that 750 if he stays healthy and gets in good races. I think being in the Big Ten might be a bit of a disadvantage for him compared to somewhere like the Mountain Pacific Sports Federation, based on the way they run their meets. Big Ten does a little bit more of a championship style, whereas the Mountains MPSF, the Mountain Sports Federation, they do a little bit more of an invite style, and they kind of set their races up to run faster and get those national qualifiers on that descending order list. So, yeah, it'll be exciting to see what's ahead for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think 756 is excellent. Obviously, knock a few seconds down, get closer to that 750 magic number, but I think we'll maybe see him throw down a fast 5K. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but I would imagine the 5K might be his ticket to nationals if he gets in the right race pretty soon. So
it's tough running those 5Ks indoors. I don't know what he's got, what he's got on his plate for outdoors or the whole kind of season arc as a whole. And you never know. IU could have they ran a hot DMR too. I think Ben's teammate.
Kyle Mao, right?
No, I'm thinking of Cooper.
Cooper, oh yeah. Cooper's
Williams ran, I think, split a 147 on their DMR recently. So, Ben could maybe be in the conversation for making it onto the DMR. I'm sure the staff over at Bloomington's kind of see how the next few meets go and kind of decide where they want to put their pieces at conference and beyond.
I believe Cooper Williams earlier this indoor season ran 4:04 in the full mile, so he might very well be one of the next candidates to be the next Hoosier to crack the sub 4 minute mile. So
yeah, he's knocking on the door, and he's traditionally, I think, been more of an 800 runner, but some pretty studly milers have been made out of 800 runners. So
no doubt. And then giving Curtis Eckstein at Purdue some credit there, that 8:04 3K. Historically speaking, Kurt's not been a guy that's been known for his mile or 3K speed through high school, early college, but that 8:04 3K it's getting down there whenever you start flirting with that sub 8 barrier. And for a guy like Kurt, who seems to be more of a 5K, 10K guy, look for him to do big things the rest of this indoor season, and then perhaps in the 10K outdoors. So going back down to obviously these are all high school alums. Let's talk about the high school season that is quickly approaching here. The HSR season is right around the corner. So let's talk about 2019. A little high school distance preview here in Indiana. Some storylines we're looking forward to. I'll start off here. My big storyline on the boys' side is we only have 5 medals coming back. Not medalists necessarily, but 5 medals coming back from last year, earned in the 800, 1600, and 3200. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, Chris, for some guys to...
That's 5 out of 27 possible coming back. So
there's some room for some guys to make a name for themselves. So hopefully some guys are training pretty hard, because there's some major opportunity out there. So let's talk about those returners, though. So who do we have? We've got in the 800.
6th place last year was Mitchell Curl out of West Lafayette. 7th place was Tanner, I believe it's pronounced Saleh out of Northridge, and Luke Greiner was 8th. So 6, 7, 8th coming back at the 800. So yeah, we'll see how they move up if their positions changed. Could be a hot race.
And then we have to comment on last year's 800 meter state finals race, where the slow heat took most of the medals, if I'm not mistaken. Due to the first heat, the second heat, the fast heat, going out at a pedestrian pace between the 200 and 500 meter portion of the race, and you don't see that every year. That was an interesting strategy for those guys in the fast heat last year.
Yeah, it's tough with the 800. I think that's the longest event that has split heats. So it's tough. Trying to gauge those tactics between those 2 heats. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
And then in the 1600, we have two medalists coming back from last year, two very high-level, high-placing medalists at that. We have the Cole Hawker coming back. He was state runner-up last year. Got out-kicked by a fantastic runner in Matthew Shadler from down in Evansville area. And then we have Jesse Hamlin, the third-place finisher from Fort Wayne Snyder. Had an excellent cross-country season. We obviously didn't mention Hawker's cross-country season yet. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But Hamlin had a fantastic cross-country season. I believe placed, let me check my notes here. Sixth in the state finals down at Laverne Gibson. So you got to think he's poised to come back and make some noise on the track, perhaps in his premier event, the 1600. But you never know. He might choose a different avenue to maybe find his best avenue to a state title before he graduates.
Yeah, and you see that's common a lot. Sometimes, people will flip from their junior year, move between either the 16 or the 32 just to give one a try or the other, or even try doubling.
Which, talking about the 3200, I think that's where we see the biggest door opening for any new names that want to enter the medal territory. So we've got 0.
None, nada, zilch.
Returning medals from the 3200 last year. All medalists last year were seniors, which I don't know if I've ever seen that in my years following Indiana boys high school track.
I sure can't remember.
Usually you have one underclass, even freshmen have medaled in the 3200 in the past. Yours truly being one of them at one point, but yeah, all seniors, 9 for 9. So who's going to enter this conversation here? Who's going to enter the 3200, 1600 conversation and nab some medals?
So a lot of medals up for grabs. The best indicator we have is probably the recent NC or cross country championships for the IHSAA. So I believe there were, of the top 10, only 2 have track medals. So those top 10 from that cross country meet last year, those are kind of going to be looking to scoop up a good portion of those 27 medals that are going to be up for grabs in those distance events.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what Gabriel Sanchez does on the track. Chris, you know me, you know my theories. I'm a big fan of winners. And Mr. Sanchez only lost 1 cross-country meet in the state of Indiana last year. If I'm not mistaken, feel free to fact-check me here. But he lost 1 meet, and that was...
And who did he lose that to?
He lost to the Foot Locker national champion at Laverne Gibson in the state finals. He lost to Cole Hawker. Now, he may have ran NXR, Foot Locker Midwest, but I'm talking specifically the Scholastic season, the IHSA season. So this kid seems to have a nose for the finish line. And he proved that in the state meet and was kind of a surprise runner-up finisher. Not a lot of people had him pegged in that position.
Yeah, I remember looking at the boards and kind of the previews for the state meet, and yeah, this kid kind of came out of nowhere. I remember watching the race and seeing him up there, and he looked good. Finished strong, and yeah, like Brock said, winners are highly valuable, and this kid looks like he knows how to do that, and more so that doesn't like to lose. I think even though Cole had quite a bit of lead there at that race, he wasn't counting himself out even to the very end. So yeah, he's looking good to scoop up a medal or 2.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he was an early high school soccer player, and so maybe he's getting his running legs under him here. Got some great training and coaches at Lowell. They've had a fantastic program over the past few years, produced many Division I athletes. So yeah, really excited to see what happens at Lowell with Mr. Gabe Sanchez. I would also throw Brennan Bucci in the mix from Mississinawa. He looked like he was going to get the runner-up spot, but he had a tough last part of the race at the state meet. But the reason why he had a tough last part was because he went for it, and he hung with Cole Hawker for about 3K probably.
He went for it. He ran with courage, and yeah, it's honestly admirable that he hung on for 3rd from a charging Sanchez late. Very impressive race. I think a lot of the other folks in that pack, Sanchez included, were kind of giving it to Hawker, and we're just kind of I think racing for that, second, third, fourth spot. And so, yeah, props to Brennan for going after it.
Yeah, Brennan seems like one of those kids that ignores the objective limits that some athletes maybe get carried away thinking about and talk themselves out of something that they might feel is impossible. So kudos to Brennan for that performance. Looking forward to seeing how that translates to the track and if he can get in that medal conversation. We've got several other guys on here. I mean, we could read the entire cross-country results list, but a few names jump out here. Caleb Futter, he's been one of the perennial powers, if you will, from CAI down in southern Indiana. He's made a lot of noise over the past few seasons. Look for him to be in that conversation. I'll go ahead and say this one so you don't have to hype your own guy here, but Quinn Gallagher had a fantastic end of the cross-country season. I'm sure it's not because of coaching or anything, but Quinn held on for the 5th place finish in the IHSA cross-country finals, put it together when it mattered. Obviously, the state meets when it matters. No one's talking about any other meets here in this podcast. We're talking about those championship meets, and he did it when it mattered. So.
Yeah. Few people remember what happens in those early season meets. It's about getting it done when it matters. And Quinn had a good day, and hopefully we've talked about he's going to be in the hunt to hopefully scoop a medal as well.
Yep. So we'll see if his championship racing prowess continues on the oval. A few other guys. There's several guys that were in the top 10 in cross country that don't have track medals, obviously, because not many do have track medals, but. We're looking at Austin Haskett from Edgewood, Reese Gibson, Fort Wayne Concordia, Ethan Meyer from Fishers, and Nick Perkins, Roncalli. So any comments on those guys?
Yeah, I think one thing to note, I was talking with some of my comrades, was that a lot of small school runners did well this year. Topic of debate always is the class system. And Indiana has that one class. But I think it's pretty sweet that we can get everybody in one race and kind of run through it like this and really see where everybody stacks up. And I'm excited to see all these runners run coming up.
And if we didn't mention your name here as one of the top 10 cross country guys or returning medalists, as Chris said, there are 27 medals available with only about five returning medals coming back. So it's kind of anyone's game right now. So if you want a medal, go to practice tomorrow.
Individual. There's some relay medals in that 4x8. We're gonna count that as a distance event as well. So there's even more. So get your shoes on and get out the door, because they're up for grabs.
Now, before we switch to the girls' side, one guy that we have not talked a lot about yet is the Mr. Cole Hawker.
Never heard of him.
So this arguably is the biggest storyline of the boys' distance track season coming up is what can Hawker do?
Yeah, there's been a lot. What can he do? Can he break 4? Can he win the triple? Can he, break the state records? We've had only one other Foot Locker champion in Indiana high school running past, and that was Mike Fout. But the Nike wasn't as much of a thing back then, and Cole got second there and looking strong. And so the sky's the limit on this kid. Everybody's wondering he's going to be the storyline. I don't want to hype him up too much because. There's not much place to go from down, other than down from what we're expecting from Cole. Because he's a great talent, future Duck. If you didn't know, recently committed to Oregon. So we're looking at this kid do some big things, and I think everybody's excited.
Yeah, we talked about Gabe Sanchez and his nose for the finish line, his ability to win races, and Cole Hawker is the prime example of that coming to fruition in his senior season. Those of you who haven't seen Cole race often, he's the same racer he was as a sophomore and junior in high school. but Cole Hawker had a few studs in his way, namely Gabe Findle, who was running 4:04 at the time, and low 850s in a 3200, and you probably had Ben Veach early on in high school, Kurt Eckstein, etc. So yeah, there's been some great athletes that have beaten Cole Hawker in his early high school years. But if you watched Cole race, he fought every race all the way to the finish line. He nearly caught Findle's senior year when Gabe was on top of the world at that point in time. So yeah, that all came together for Cole his senior year and really paid some dividends. And the kid knows how to win. He knows how to kick. He showed that at NXN. He showed that at Foot Locker Nationals and came away with one win there and one runner-up. So really excited to see him not only race Hoosiers here in the state of Indiana, but seeing if he gets into any national caliber meets and perhaps chases some historic times. And I'm sure we'll get to hyping this stuff up as time goes on, but I think Chris and I both agree that as fun as it is to hype, there has to be a sense of reality here too, and manage health, manage expectations. And it seems like Cole has a really good group around him that keeps him grounded, keeps him training hard, great coaches. So it'll just be really exciting to see what they do. But I'll go on my crazy soapbox here, and he does have a chance to enter some sort of GOAT conversation. Now whether they, Cathedral and Cole, go down that path, that's yet to be seen, and obviously their decision, but it's just going to be really exciting, and we should take advantage as fans of the sport and really kind of admire this season and see what he does. So
Yeah, he's just fun to watch run. It's as simple as that. He's a show.
yeah, well said.
So yeah, on to the girls.
Yeah, so on the girls' side, it's kind of polar opposite of the boys here. We have 18 medals coming back out of a potential of 27. So obviously the girls' events last year were almost dominated by underclassmen, non-seniors. Now of those 18 medals, I guess we do have to kind of make a note of this. Emma Wilson was 2 of those 18 medals, and rumor has it right now that, or actually her statement,
She'll be abstaining her final track season. She's going to continue to run, and she has, I think, made commitments to run at Illinois. It is next year.
yeah, I believe she's running for the Illini and the Big Ten.
So she's gonna be running this fall, cross country for them. But she's made a decision to step away from Indiana high school running. So she went out with a cross country title. So that's 2 medals freed up of those 18 supposedly coming back. But we'll see what happens there.
And congrats to Emma Wilson on the college commitment to Illinois. She's going to go on and have a fantastic NCAA career, I would imagine. And she's clearly in a conversation of potentially one of the greatest of all time in Indiana female history, purely because of the number of titles she has. I believe she has 2 cross-country titles. She pulled the double her sophomore year in the track, 1632, and then she took the 3200 last year. So what's that add up to? Five titles in the span of about a year and a half. So yeah, it's hard to win that many.
Yeah, it takes some guts to walk away from what probably would have been 2 more. But yeah, she's got a good little list of accolades to run on.
Well, going into the athletes that are returning and that we know are coming back or assume are coming back, starting with the 800 meters, we have 6 medals returning from last year's state finals. And in my opinion, Chris, this is maybe the race to watch in the 2019 state finals. I'll probably change my mind as we see results that start coming in, but it's a huge one here. So we go ahead.
So yeah, the first, second, and third from last year's state meet are all returning. Or actually, first top 4 all return. So yeah, we'll see who wants it, who's been working this last year. Is Maddie gonna defend her title? Or one of those that finished behind her gonna kind of take her on and come back and try and steal the show. So that'll be really exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, and Maddie Russin, for those who don't remember, she was the one who stole the show last year, because the conversation was all about Elizabeth Stanhope and Abigail Lynch battling out for potential state records, whatever. The hype machine gets going online. But Maddie Russin came out of essentially nowhere, was a very solid runner throughout the whole season, and she won the thing. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone can slide in and steal the show from her this year. It's just going to be a battle.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's going to be somebody that's not in that top 4 that's going to come in and kind of mix it up with those other 4 returners. Just kind of the way the 800 goes. Maybe one of them won't even make the final. I hope they do, but those the 800's the longest race at the state meet that is heats. So, anything could happen.
It's interesting for sure. And Elizabeth Stanhope from Pike, she's in her senior year. She had a fantastic cross-country season. I believe, I could be wrong, but I think she was all-state in cross-country. If she wasn't, I know she had a great season nonetheless. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates to the 800. But you got to think, a girl like that, with that sort of 800 speed and a great cross-country season, she very well could bump up to the 1600. So you just never know event choices when we get later in the spring.
Yeah.
Moving on to the 1600 meters. This might tell Stanhope maybe she should stay in the 800, because the defending state champion is coming back in the 1600, and I believe she's from Carmel, Chris.
Yeah, another Carmel athlete. I've been watching Phoebe run for quite some time. I ran with one of her older brothers at Carmel, she's been killing it for a couple of years now here. She had a real strong cross-country season. Maybe could have finished a little stronger, or she probably would have liked to finish a little stronger, but she ran great all year, had a lot of great performances, and I know those are going to be good signs of what's to come. So that 1600's got the most medals up for grabs, so I could actually see some of maybe those 800 girls moving up and maybe vying for a 1600 title.
Yeah, we have 4 medals coming back in the 1600, 3 if you don't count Emma Wilson. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity in the girls 1600 this year. I think you have to note Ava Giliana from Valparaiso, as a sophomore last year, coming in kind of a surprise runner-up finish. So curious to see what she does. And then we had a freshman last year, and Brenna Hanna from Greensburg, who took the 8th place medal, coming back for her sophomore year. So interesting to see how she's going to develop and maybe get into that upper echelon, higher up on the podium, if you will. So moving on to the girls 3200, where we have the most. It's the complete polar opposite of the boys 3200. We have 8 medals coming back in the girls 3200 as opposed to the 0 on the boys side. So I think we're primarily looking at, I'm looking at the group of Fort Wayne Carroll girls between Megan Hathaway and Abby Green. Megan Hathaway took the 5th place spot in cross country. She was obviously state runner-up in the 3200 last year. Now with Emma Wilson choosing not to run this season, you got to think Megan Hathaway from Carroll, with that solid cross-country season, could be coming in as the favorite, along with several other girls who had great cross-country seasons. Abby Green placed 4th last year in the 3200, part of that stellar Fort Wayne Carroll distance running program coached by Phil Yoder. So those 2 girls right there look like they have the targets on their back.
Definitely. And Carroll's got a great little nexus of females running over there right now. They got a nice little group. They're pretty deep, you can definitely bet they're gonna show out some this coming spring.
No doubt. And then Phoebe Bates last year had a fantastic double. She came back after winning the 1600 for a very solid 5th place finish in the 3200. Emma Wilson, give her some credit there. She came back after a disappointing 1600 and came back and won the 3200, which you don't see that very often. When someone has a disappointing race, it's very rare they get it back together and win that second event, and that just shows why Emma Wilson is a legend.
Yeah, you'd much more likely see somebody go maybe win the mile and come back and get a 4th, and that'd still be really good. But to finish higher on your second event, you just don't see that.
Yeah, it's almost like in ball sports, basketball, where a coach says, next play. You have a bad play or an average play, and you just move on to that next play, and you just put the other one in your distant rearview mirror. Seems like Emma Wilson, not that she had a bad race in the 1600. Fourth place is fantastic, but she was the defending champion. She certainly put that in her rearview mirror within an hour and a half, and hammered it home in that 3200. But Phoebe Bates came back and had a solid double as well, and is probably looking to do the same thing this year. In addition to Phoebe Bates, we have Jordan Boyer from Lowell, Annalisa Crane from Edgewood, Lulu Black, HSE, and Shelby Bullock from Chesterton, all returning medalists. So should be a pretty exciting 3200 if all those girls stay healthy, keep working hard, and run the same event. We also have a big list of cross-country girls that finished top 20 this year in the championship at the state meet. The one that sticks out to me is Erin Streleski from Fort Wayne Bishop Dwenger. She's in her junior year and had a breakout cross-country season and took that runner-up spot, very similar to what Gabe Sanchez from Lowell did. So excited to see what event she chooses on the track. Don't know if she's a miler or a 2-miler. Not that there's much of a difference in the high school level, but maybe there's some opportunity in either or both of those events. So Chris, what are you most looking forward to in the IHSA track season?
Obviously, I'm going to be biased towards my athletes. I'm looking forward to their seasons and their success. But from a 30,000-foot perspective, definitely Cole Hawker. He's the star of 2019 high school track running. So he's got a lot ahead of him. I hope he stays healthy, and we'll be able to really see him shine. And yeah, that's definitely what I'm looking most forward to. What about you, Brock?
Yeah, I have to agree, Cole Hawker, but I'm going to try and not take the obvious answer right there, even though it is my answer. I'm going to say, who's going to be the new star heading into the next cross-country season? Because we're going to lose a big one in Cole Hawker on the boys' side, and there's a lot of opportunity for medals this year. Is someone going to take their game, any underclassmen, any junior, sophomore, freshman, going to take their game to the next level and continue this great tradition of great individuals on the boys' side for Indiana distance running? There's a handful of names. They're not there yet, but this track season could be the point that they actually get there and have a fantastic junior, senior year when they get there and win some titles. So, and can anyone run with Cole Hawker? Is anyone crazy enough to try? Is anyone physically or mentally capable? I don't know. I'm not advising it to anyone, so don't take that as a challenge necessarily. But I'm curious if anyone, takes their game that high. Find it hard to believe anyone can, but that's why they run the race, right, Chris?
That's right.
Well, we appreciate you guys joining us for this first episode of RunIN podcast. Chris, you want to give out some of our contact information?
Yeah, so if you want to find me online, you can find me on Instagram at Waldenism, or I'm also on Indiana Runner. I post under the screen name Logic_runner. And then also, if you have any feedback for the podcast or would like to contact us via email, you can reach us at indianaruncast@gmail.com. And if you have any corrections for us or any requests for content or any alumni updates you think would be notable for us to deliver to the listeners, that would be great.
Yeah, and we thank you guys for joining us. We look forward to seeing some results that start flowing in on the interwebs, and we will continue to analyze them and recognize accomplishments, and really looking forward to getting the ball rolling on this thing and bringing you guys more coverage in the upcoming weeks and months.
Looking forward to see you next time on RunIN.
Running with